Ah, that mid-sized cruiser segment. How would you even define it? Well, these are the Goldilocks bikes. Not so small they'll struggle on the highway at 130 km per hour or 80 miles per hour, and not so large that they'll be a handful in traffic or a parking lot. They should have the presence of a big bike, be stylish and fast enough to keep up with your buddies on their big bikes, but they shouldn't land you in the poorhouse or on the hook for years of monthly payments, forking over thousands in interest to whatever legal loan shark holds you by the metaphorical. These motorcycles are usually split up between the over 1000cc crowd like the Scout, the Triumph Bobber, and the Roadmaster, and the Sportster 1200, and smaller bikes like the Sportster 883, Scout 60, and Vulcan 900 and 650 models. And if you're shopping for one, you have plenty of choices at various price points. The Rebel 1100 just joined the party recently, so check out my video on that bike which came out last week. And I have a personal interest in the matter since I just purchased a Harley Davidson Sportster Roadster. I've always liked Harleys and wanted to own one with an Evo motor. And since it's looking like the Evo may be discontinued entirely within the next couple of years, I found this loaded one for the price of a base Iron 883 and snapped it up. Strictly speaking, the Roadster is not a cruiser as the riding position is very standard. But it's a Sportster and is very similar to the Sportsters that are cruisers, though somewhat better equipped, what with its inverted forks, dual discs up front, and better handling due to the rider being in a more aggressive position. But is it a good bike, especially considering the technological superiority of the competition? Now if you're expecting some BS spiel about the Roadster being high performance and sporty, forget it. There are folks out there who think that Harleys exist in a vacuum, for whom there are no other bikes. When you tell them you're getting a motorcycle, their only question is it a touring, softail, or Sportster? These are the riders who will tell you that the Roadster or the Lowrider S are sporty, aggressive bikes that are built for twisty roads. And they say stuff like that because they've never stepped into a dealership that didn't have a big orange and white sign on it. But alas, I've owned many different types of bikes, and that has given me enough perspective to assure you that my old model year 2000 600cc Honda F4 could have kicked the living stuffings out of every Harley Davidson ever built on a twisty road, the track, or the drag strip. I also currently own a Yamaha Tenere 700, which I consider my main motorcycle. And let me tell you, that bike does everything well and is very hard to upstage, especially given that its MSRP is 1,000 Canadian dollars less than a Roadster, when the Roadster is not equipped with ABS or the security system that mine has. So you're not getting any fairy tales from me. This is my first Harley. I don't have a business relationship with the company or any of its dealers, or any other company for that matter. I like being independent. It gives me the freedom to talk all the shit I want without fear of repercussions. And YouTube isn't my main job, so I don't depend on it to pay the bills. This is a long-winded way of telling you that I won't hold back. Now in this video, I'm going to go over the Sportster's negatives first, and if you love the bike, you may be tempted to throw something at whatever screen you're watching this on, but please refrain. I'll get to the positives eventually, and then at the end of the video, as a bonus, I'll give you my wife Brooke's opinion of the bike as a relatively new 120-pound female rider moving up from a 300cc bike. So if you're one of those folks whose self-esteem is wrapped up in a product or in people agreeing with them about a product, especially a Harley Davidson, warm up those typing fingers, hit that all caps button, and let's go. Does the Harley Sportster suck? In every objective sense, when compared to the Triumphs, the Indian Scout, and the upcoming Honda Rebel 1100, the answer is yes. The Sportster is heavy, it's laughably lacking in horsepower for a 1200cc bike, its frame is not stiff or light, at stops it vibrates like a and the ergonomics, at least on the Roadster, put you in perfect position for a proctology exam. I won't even mention the back seat, as most Sportsters don't come with one stock, or passenger pegs, and the Roadster, the only one that does, has a back seat designed to be used in conjunction with a popular t-shirt design that graces the shops in Daytona and Sturgis every year. Okay, I'll mention the back seat only to advise you that if you love your passenger, for the love of all that is holy, do not put them on the back of a stock Roadster. So let's get into the particulars. The Roadster is powered by a 1200cc air-cooled rubber-mounted motor that spins a dyno to the tune of about 60 horsepower. If you go for the Iron 883 version, you'll see about 44 horses, about the same as a KTM Duke. No, not the Super Duke. No, not the 890. Yeah, that one. The 390, which has a single cylinder displacing 373cc and weighs 200 pounds less than a Sportster. That Duke. The engine performance on the stock 1200 is decent. It can accelerate up to highway speeds in relatively short order and keep up with or pass traffic on the highway without a problem. The 1200 feels like it has more horsepower than it does due to the fact that it makes so much torque, about 67 pound-feet. Additionally, despite having only 5 gears, this bike is geared so high that it feels pretty relaxed at speed. The stock 883 doesn't feel like it has enough power for its weight and is in need of a Stage 1 upgrade straight from the factory. That's an air filter, exhaust, and tuner that you have to get from Harley Davidson in order not to void your warranty. The Roadster's suspension, which is far superior to that of other Sportsters, helps its handling a bit, but because of its flexi frame and 571 pound wet weight, the bike still falls short of handling as well as a Scout or Triumph bobber. However, it is worlds ahead of the Iron 883 with its squat shocks and not enough weight on the front wheel. The 883 with stock suspension handles like a pool noodle. One of the most annoying things about the Roadster are its mid-controls. In theory, they should make the bike handle better, but are unfortunately positioned in the exact place where my feet come down when the bike stops. The pegs catch on my pants, and the Hero feelers have come close to skewering my calves on more than one occasion. The main problem arises from the fact that the pegs are so wide your legs can't reach around them. They actually flip up so that you can back up the bike, but it would just be better if they were closer in. I should point out that Brooke doesn't notice this problem and that her feet naturally come down behind the pegs, so this may be a problem only taller riders have. By now you're probably wondering why I bought the bike, especially if I'm going to crap all over it on YouTube for the world to see. Well, the fact is, I knew what I was getting. I've ridden Sportsters before and I wasn't expecting a super polished motorcycle. I bought it because I liked many things about it and I got it for a fantastic deal, a story I relayed in my Harley prices going up video. So the first thing I like about it is the first thing most Harley riders like, the looks. No two ways about it, this bike looks sweet. Harley designers know how to make a pretty bike. The proportions fit, the 18-inch rear wheel, a feature of the Roadster only, looks just the right size, the paint is deep and lustrous and the fit and finish is top-notch. Everything feels solid and substantial, and even the switchgear, which is probably the cheapest looking part of the bike, fits with the blacked out look. The engine has lots of space around it, it's air-cooled after all, and the Sportster's advantage over its competitors is that the lack of a radiator keeps the bike looking clean and old school. Who among us doesn't want to ride a beautiful motorcycle? Let's face it, Harley defines cruiser style. Look at the competition sporting the blacked out look. Remember the Night Train, the Night Rod, the Nightster? Harley is responsible for popularizing the chromed out look of yesteryear and the blacked out look of today. I'm not saying the others are copying Harley. Actually, yes I am. Enough said. Another unique trait of the Harley is the sound. Take 2 big cylinders, put them at a 45-degree angle, attach them to a single crank pin, and you get a sound like no other motor. Yes, it was douchey of Harley to try to patent the sound in the 90s, but the sound of these motors is unique and aggressive. The third thing I like is the vibration, because this is a marvel of engineering. This bike does shake at a standstill, but it's a pleasant, lumpy rumble that lets you experience the heartbeat of the machine without being annoying. The vibration intensifies as you pull away and then disappears, and doesn't reappear again until you're pushing 130 km per hour on the highway. When they rubber mounted this engine, the engineers did a masterful job of dialing in just enough vibes to feel rough, but not enough to be annoying. Let's move on to reliability. Break an Evo engine in the right way and it will give you years of worry-free riding. The reputation of Harleys being unreliable comes from the AMF 70s when there were indeed quality control issues. However, current Harleys don't share those traits. In the by now infamous Consumer Reports study looking at motorcycle reliability, Harley came in behind the Japanese brands but ahead of all the European manufacturers. It makes sense. These engines are so big and under stress that they will last, and a lot of the broken down Harleys you see on the side of the road are a result of them just being old. People keep their 60s, 70s, and 80s Harleys because they're valuable. Sure, you see the occasional older Honda too, but you see a lot more hogs. Another perk of a Harley is the belt drive, good for 160,000 kilometers of maintenance-free operation. I try to be pretty good about cleaning the chain on my Yamaha, and I appreciate the efficiency and lightweight of chain drive. But if I'm just running errands and piling on miles on pavement, I like cruising around on the hog. That way I'm not wearing out my off-roadish tires and my chain. And speaking of old hogs, let's look at resale value. Is there another motorcycle that keeps its value like a Harley? There are other premium brands like Ducati and BMW that hold their value pretty well, but not as well as Harleys do. Why? Because those are performance brands, and when a better performing model comes out, it knocks the value of the last generation down. Now, new Harleys perform better than older ones, but since people don't really buy them for their performance, older bikes which look very similar to today's models can also be closer in price to them. And these bikes will be classics someday. They sort of already are. Harleys are an experience, especially the Sportsters. The Triumphs and Indians look old, and so do the bigger Harleys, but the Sportsters are old. They are agricultural. They do have tractor motors. They make you feel like you went back in time, and some people appreciate that. That's why some folks would rather drive a '67 Mustang than a new one. So what does my wife think about it?
This Roadster is definitely different than my Honda. It takes a while to get used to it. With the power, it has a lot more power. My Honda's a 300 and this is a 1200, and I tell you, when I go into first gear, I feel like I'm being pulled right along. It has a lot of torque. It's a little nerve-wracking at first, especially when I'm trying to do some turns. If I'm trying to turn around, as I was noticing today, I'm very nervous because I feel like I'm going to drop it. It's a lot heavier than my bike, and because it has so much power, I do the turn extremely slowly. So I definitely need some practice with that. It's very comfortable. I actually really like the riding position. I enjoy having my knees bent. They're bent at greater than a 90-degree angle, and I like that. It's very, very comfortable. I like the rumble. It definitely has a lot of rumble. And but the one thing I do find is the clutch. My hand gets very sore very, very quickly because the clutch is just hard to pull. And it's also a bit of a bigger stretch than I'm used to. So, and that's the same with the brake, the hand brake. I have to really stretch my hand to reach the brake and to reach the clutch. And one thing, when I'm stretching my hand to reach the brake, I find that because it's such a stretch, my hand then begins to roll on the throttle, and then I'm actually giving it some gas, which is not something that I want. So we're going to try to see if we can move the clutch and the brake a little bit closer in and make the clutch a little bit easier to pull, because my hand does get very, very sore. But I must say, I really do like the way this bike feels. It has a ton of power, ton of power, and it just keeps chugging along. Even if I'm in a high gear, I was noticing before I was going 50 kilometers an hour and I was only in the second gear, and I didn't even notice that any strain or anything like that. So it's really a good bike to ride.
So there you have it. You give up some performance with a Sportster, although you give up the least with the Roadster. You pay a premium for the bike over a Rebel 1100, but what you buy with that is a forever bike. It looks and sounds cool. It's more customizable than any other motorcycle, including the crappy ergos. It will get you where you're going in style and makes you feel badass doing it. Parts for it are plentiful. Every mechanic around knows how to work on it. Hell, you can do it yourself. And if you decide to sell it, you'll get a bigger return. So does it suck? Yup, if you judge it on price, performance, and tech. However, I mentioned that Consumer Reports reliability study earlier. Well, reliability wasn't the only thing that survey measured. It also measured customer satisfaction with the product. And if you're wondering which brand came out on top, here it is. You see, stats and features are not the only factors when it comes to enjoying your motorcycle. Riding bikes is an emotional exercise, and Harley Davidson is good at delivering that emotional experience. So if you're thinking of buying one, know what you're getting. If you want the features, get a Rebel. If you want a bike that will be timeless, well, there's only one choice left, and time is running out. Okay, before you Indian viewers jump all over me, I'll grant you, there are two choices left. Now, incidentally, I did throw up a poll on my channel recently asking viewers which middleweight cruiser they'd spend their own money on, and the results were clear. The new Honda Rebel 1100 won hands down. This may be because of its price and features, or it may be because it's the shiny new thing at the moment and its launch has generated a lot of buzz. Or it may be that heritage is no longer a big factor for consumers when buying a middleweight cruiser. For whatever it's worth, there it is. I guess I'm in the minority, but if I didn't already have a very practical and capable motorcycle in the garage, I have to admit I'd seriously consider the Rebel as well. So what are your top priorities when buying a bike? Is it looks, sound, performance, reliability, ease of maintenance, resale value, or legacy? Put in your 2 cents in the comments below and ride safe. If you're interested in any of the gear that Brooke and I wear or use, or the camera equipment we use to film this channel, the links are below. Everything listed there was bought with our own money and we are not sponsored by any company. However, the links below are affiliate links and the channel is paid a small amount for referring you to shop at no additional cost to you. We do not recommend any products that we are not satisfied with ourselves, but we do strongly urge you to do your research and select the correct size for items like helmets and clothing. As always, thanks for watching, your support is greatly appreciated. Please hit that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, and leave a comment below. And whatever you ride, enjoy it. Wave at other bikers no matter what they're riding. We're all part of a brotherhood and sisterhood. Keep the rubber side down, shiny side up, and may the spokes be with you.